So my garden is all planned out, and it always feels so good to know what, when, and where plants will go in the garden come spring. This year is a little different for me. This year I have a goal. I aim to grow 80% of my food for the entire year. And by 80%, I don't just mean calories, but a nutritionally complete diet. And this is the first step in my 5-year plan to become food self-sufficient. 95% food self-sufficient, that is. Not quite 100. I need 5 years because we're going to need to get some more trees and other perennials that take a few years to reach maturity and produce ripe fruits. Now there's many ways to plant a garden, no right, no wrong. It all just depends on your goals, if you have any. For many years I gardened with no goals whatsoever, just wanted to plant seeds and harvest whatever came up. And more recently, I just planted vegetables and fruits based on what we like to eat. Now, admittedly, this year my methods are a little nerdy, but that's just me. So in this video, I'll share the resources that I found to determine what I decided that I was going to plant and how much of each item I need to plant, as well as where I'll put it in the garden. First, I needed to determine what to grow. So to come up with a diet sufficient in calories as well as nutrients, I used an app called Carb Manager to create a sample day's meals. With this app, you put in foods and the app shows you the macronutrients, carbs, fats, proteins, as well as the micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. As I added and subtracted foods, I focused on what I like to eat and what grows best in my climate. I started breakfast based on eggs because we have chickens and vegetables. After every food addition, I'd take a peek at the micronutrients to see which ones I was low on. I would then add in foods high in the needed nutrients. If I wasn't sure what foods contained those vitamins or minerals, I just Googled foods highest in whatever it was, and added what I like and what grows well here. For breakfast, I ended up with like a egg scramble. Lunch is like a vegetable bean soup. I have never grown lentils before, but I love them, so I added them. And then dinner, I had in mind like a stir fry or possibly a veggie roast. Currently, soybeans don't grow here or almonds, but I want to substitute the needs in those nutrients with filberts. And also I have a snack of a piece of fruit. I do like to have a paper and pencil resource, so I wrote down all of the items I would need for a day in my notebook also. I then based my entire garden on that one day's menu. It was just the easiest way to do it. That doesn't mean that's the only thing I'm going to grow or that I will eat those same meals every single day. I can swap foods in and out as I choose to. But if I had to eat those foods every day, I would be so grateful and thankful that I was able to produce them and grow them and eat them on my own. It would be incredible. But that's not my plan. Anyway, I added up the quantity of each food for that one day, and I multiplied it by 365 days. And that's how I came up with how much food I need to grow in my garden. And when you look at the yearly needs, 730 eggs at 2 a day, 365 potatoes at 1 a day, 92 cups of avocado oil or sunflower seed oil, if I'm able to switch out and make my own, 52 cups of kale, etc., etc., etc. It's a lot of food. I then needed to figure out how much of each plant is needed to be grown in order to give a sufficient harvest. This part is tricky. Yields are going to vary annually based on a lot of things. Soil quality, weather, pests, disease, etc. However, I did need some sort of estimate to use. Google search to the rescue. I found a great website with garden calculators. Let me show you. The website is ufseeds.com/calculators, and it has a variety of calculators to help you plan your garden. I used the vegetable yield calculator first. It opens up into a spreadsheet. You type in the length of your row, and then the number of rows you're going to grow. And it calculates the expected yields in pounds. So that's what I did with all the vegetables on their list that I intend to grow. So I put the information in that I needed to come up with the yields that I needed. That gave me an idea of how much growing space I was going to need in order to plant all the plants. I just scratched out my beds based on how many of each item I was going to plant and how wide I was going to make my beds so that I could get an idea of how much room this was going to take and if I even had enough room. And it looks like I have more than enough room. My fenced garden area is about 60 by 70. Most of my rows are 3 feet wide, a couple are 4 feet. The items that I grow far apart, I give them 4 feet because I can take a hoe and get into the middle. I don't have a long arm span. I'm a pretty short person. So 3 feet is my ideal for those little plants that you need to weed between. But the 4 feet works okay for potatoes, cabbage, broccoli, that sort of thing. And my favorite foods aren't even in this garden plan. They're not even in it because they don't grow well here. Tomatoes, that's my favorite garden food to grow, but they don't grow well here at all. We have to have them in a hoop house. We have to start them early indoors. There is no way they will have enough heat units to ripen them before summer is over without getting blight. So I'm growing them. I'm growing a lot of them. And those sort of things, the peppers and the tomatoes and the tomatillas, I don't have them mapped out on my food plan. I will plant them somewhere in the garden. I will. It's a must for me. But they're not actually included in this plan at all. This is just the basics for my 1-year diet. Anything I can grow vertically, I will grow vertically. It saves a ton of room. And I think it's less prone to disease, at least in my climate it is. So that would be cucumbers, which are not on my plan, and squash, which are, peas and beans. Anything that you can trellis up gets trellised up. The other calculator that I used was the vegetable seed calculator. It's another spreadsheet that opens up. Again, you type in the length of your row and how many rows you're planting. The spreadsheet then calculates how many seeds you'll need. You just continue and put in all of the plants that you want, the row length and the number of rows, and it gives you all the quantity of seed that you will need to purchase. If this is a plant that can be successfully seeded or it's common to use transplants, the spreadsheet will tell you both the seeds needed as well as how many transplants might be needed. Some things like onions are just easy. If you're gonna want 365 onions, you're gonna plant a little bit more than that in case some of them don't do well. But other seeds like broccoli and lettuce and radish and stuff, I'm always just overbuying generally, which is not a bad thing because they store quite well. But this I thought was really helpful when I'm trying to specifically make sure I have plenty of seed to make my goal. The last step was to look into the future to determine what perennials I could add to meet nutritional needs. Chestnut trees and filberts are promising additions, but they'll take some time to mature. Kiwis are also on my list, as well as more berries. Along with local seaweed should meet most of our needs. Well, that's all I've got for today. If you would like to see how this all turns out, go ahead and follow along, subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time.